Massive losses, collapsing morale, and a battle that's turning into a nightmare for Putin. Pokrovsk is becoming one of the costliest fronts for Russia. Today, we break down the shocking troop casualties, the fierce Ukrainian resistance, and why this single city is draining the Kremlin more than anyone expected. Stay tuned. This is big. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most intense and consequential battles currently unfolding in Ukraine, the brutal fight for Pokrovsk. This city, once a relatively quiet point on the map, has now turned into a critical flashpoint that's costing Vladimir Putin enormous manpower and resources. Reports coming out of the region indicate that Russian forces are suffering staggering troop losses as they attempt to push forward. Ukrainian defenders, relying on well-fortified positions and precise Western-supplied weaponry, are making every meter extremely costly. As we break down everything happening on the ground, we'll look at why Pokrovsk has become such a high-stakes objective, what Russia is trying to achieve, and how the battlefield realities are shifting day by day. Stay with us as we unpack the strategy, the losses, and the implications for the wider war. Pokrovsk has gained outsized strategic importance due to its location as a transportation and logistics hub in the Donetsk region. Control over this area would offer Russian forces a significant advantage in supplying their front lines and tightening their grip across eastern Ukraine. However, capturing it has become far more difficult than Moscow anticipated. Ukrainian intelligence anticipated the offensive early, reinforcing defensive lines, laying mines, and preparing layered fallback positions. As a result, Russian units advancing toward Pokrovsk have been forced into repeated frontal assaults across open and exposed terrain. These assaults have resulted in catastrophic casualty rates, with some battalions reportedly losing half their manpower before even reaching the outskirts of the city. Despite these losses, Russian commanders continue to push forward, driven by political pressure from the Kremlin to secure a symbolic victory. This dynamic has created a deadly cycle of failed attacks and mounting losses. One of the main reasons Russian losses are so severe around Pokrovsk is the overwhelming accuracy of Ukrainian artillery. Precision systems such as HIMARS, launchers, and guided artillery rounds have allowed Ukrainian forces to strike Russian troop concentrations and supply convoys long before they reach the front line. Surveillance drones feed real-time targeting data, making it nearly impossible for Russian forces to mass troops without being detected. In addition to artillery, Ukraine has been effective with long-range drone strikes targeting ammunition depots and staging areas behind Russian lines. These strikes have forced Russia to disperse its logistics, slowing advances even further. The cumulative effect is devastating. Russia is spending substantial resources replacing lost armor and personnel, while Ukraine expends far fewer. This disparity is one of the core reasons Pokrovsk has become such an expensive battlefield for the Kremlin, both materially and psychologically. Another critical factor contributing to Russian losses is the declining quality of troops being sent into the Pokrovsk offensive. Many of the elite units that spearheaded earlier assaults elsewhere have been depleted, leaving Russia increasingly reliant on mobilized soldiers, poorly trained reservists, and penal units. These fighters often lack adequate preparation for urban or contested terrain combat. Reports indicate that some units have been given minimal training and outdated equipment before being rushed into the battlefield. The lack of proper coordination between infantry armor and artillery has further compounded the problem. Ukrainian defenders, on the other hand, have constructed overlapping kill zones and ambush points specifically designed to exploit these weaknesses. As a result, Russian forces are consistently advancing into well-planned traps that inflict heavy casualties. This mismatch between preparation and execution continues to fuel Russia's unsustainable rate of losses around Pokrovsk. The geographical layout surrounding Pokrovsk also plays a huge role in the high casualty numbers. The terrain includes open fields, sparse tree lines, and scattered industrial areas, terrain that favors defenders with long-range weapons and clear lines of sight. For attackers, especially those lacking robust air support, it becomes a nightmare. Russian units trying to move forward are easily spotted by drones and hit before they can take cover. Trenches dug by Ukrainian forces add another layer of complication, forcing Russian troops to navigate narrow approaches that funnel them into predictable targets. Weather conditions have further hindered movement, with muddy ground slowing down armored vehicles and making them vulnerable to artillery and anti-tank missiles. All of this combines to create a battlefield environment where every step forward for Russian forces requires disproportionate sacrifice, making Pokrovsk one of the most lethal zones in the conflict. Morale among Russian troops operating around Pokrovsk has reportedly plummeted. Intercepted communications and soldier testimonies reveal widespread frustration over inadequate supplies, poor leadership, and unclear objectives. Many units report running low on ammunition, medical supplies, and even basic essentials like food and water. Meanwhile, casualty evacuation routes are frequently targeted by Ukrainian drones, making it dangerous to retrieve wounded soldiers from the front lines. These strains are compounded by constant Ukrainian counterattacks that reclaim ground Russia fought hard to capture. The psychological toll of seeing repeated assaults fail, only to be ordered to try again, has led to rising desertions and disciplinary breakdowns in some units. By contrast, Ukrainian defenders, while also facing hardships, are buoyed by the success of their defensive strategies and the clear purpose of protecting their territory. This morale divide has a measurable impact on battlefield effectiveness. Another reason the Pokrovsk offensive is draining Russian forces is the continued destruction of their equipment. Ukrainian strikes have reportedly taken out dozens of tanks, armored vehicles, and self-propelled artillery systems. Minefields laid along the main approach routes have crippled Russian armored columns, forcing them into predictable bypasses that Ukrainian forces are ready to target. Russia's attempts to use air power have also been limited by advanced Ukrainian air defenses, which continue to shoot down attack helicopters and drones meant to support ground assaults. This attrition of equipment means Russia must either slow down operations or commit even more hardware to the battle. The decision to keep pushing forward, despite these losses, suggests political pressure rather than sound military strategy is guiding the Kremlin's actions. The result is an increasingly unsustainable rate of equipment destruction that makes every advance more costly than the last. The political implications of the Pokrovsk struggle are significant for both sides. For Russia, capturing the city would offer a symbolic win after months of slow progress and heavy losses elsewhere. It would give the Kremlin a narrative victory to present domestically. However, the extreme cost of the offensive raises questions among military analysts about whether the potential gains justify the losses. If Russia continues suffering high casualties without securing a breakthrough, it risks further damaging its military reputation and undermining its already strained logistics. For Ukraine, holding Pokrovsk is both a strategic and morale-boosting objective. Successfully defending the city reinforces Ukraine's ability to hold key positions despite Russia's greater numbers. It also strengthens Kiev's argument for continued Western support. As the battle drags on, the political stakes for both capitals only grow, making the outcome even more consequential. Internationally, the scale of Russian losses around Pokrovsk has drawn renewed attention from Western governments. Intelligence agencies monitoring the battle report that Russia is expending vast quantities of manpower and ammunition for minimal territorial gain. This has led to renewed discussions about increasing aid packages to Ukraine, particularly in the form of artillery, ammunition, drones, and air defenses, all of which have proven effective in the Pokrovsk sector. Meanwhile, foreign analysts warn that Russia's willingness to absorb such heavy losses could prolong the war and destabilize the region further. At the same time, the high casualty numbers may spark domestic backlash within Russia, especially among families of mobilized soldiers who were promised limited exposure to frontline combat. These international dynamics highlight how a single battle can influence broader geopolitical narratives, shaping the future of the conflict far beyond the immediate battlefield. As the battle for Pokrovsk continues, it's becoming increasingly clear that Russia is paying a staggering price for every attempt to move forward. The combination of Ukrainian preparedness, superior precision weaponry, difficult terrain, low morale among Russian troops, and political pressure from Moscow has created a situation where losses are mounting at an alarming rate. For Ukraine, the defense of Pokrovsk has become a powerful symbol of resilience and tactical strength. For Russia, however, it's becoming a costly quagmire that absorbs resources desperately needed elsewhere along the front line. How long this level of attrition can continue is uncertain, but what's clear is that Pokrovsk has emerged as one of the defining battles of this phase of the war. The world will be watching closely to see what happens next, and we'll be here to break down every development as it unfolds. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Your support helps us keep bringing you clear, in-depth coverage of the biggest stories from around the world. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.